The term Big Tent Party is used by both Republicans and Democrats, but the intended meanings are completely different in reality. Generally, the requirement for being a Big Tent Party is having a coalition of support from people who may not be of the same viewpoint across all issues. In the past, Republicans and Democrats have been Big Tent Parties, where they had a mix of conservatives, moderates, and liberals. Republicans just had a mix with a greater number of conservatives. Democrats had more liberals in their mix. Both parties have recently gone through a period of cleansing per se. For a bit, Republicans went a bit too much lower taxes, low regulation, and blank checks to defense at one point, and Democrats silenced anyone who questioned big spending and explosive growth in debt, essentially doubling down on what ideas they believed defined them. Usually, those moments came in response to a political defeat. Remember, there was a time when many people in the mainstream media stated the Republican Party would never be a national party ever again. They struggled to counter the narrative by President Barack Obama, and it cost them early elections. They were right on policy, but could not articulate the message, especially against a person with great oratory ability in Obama. The Republicans needed to expand their tent. They could not simply appeal to those staunch believers in limited government, freedom, and self-determination, but try to appeal to moderates and independents that recently voted Democrat, but held values and economic interests that aligned closer to Republican ideas. They expanded their tent by appealing voters who cast ballots for Democrats but were directly harmed by purposeful policies by Democrats, like union voters who were sidelined because of climate policies. People wanted to start businesses, but regulations favored those in place already. People want the ability to speak their mind without retribution. People wonder why America always bears the cost but the benefits go elsewhere. Democrats tried to grow their tents in a way, but not by adding more voters. They seemed to prefer the back channel. The more they spoke about their ideas, the more people supported Republicans. So they needed to alter the environment. And you saw that with the massive open border agenda, where millions of illegal immigrants were brought in and placed in blue states to bolster census data. For quite some time, it was puzzling about how Democrats had bad policy ideas. The public generally opposed them, and their blue states were making a more favorable environment for them. They were not even trying to fix their messaging. They doubled down on bad ideas, failed policies, and did not show real concern over the public. They seemed completely okay with the idea of losing connection with American voters. Seemed odd at the time and how flippantly they disregarded people. But their tent expansion did not need Americans. Until now, when the gig is up and we know how they scheme to maintain political machines and maintain power. Now, they look at their tent and it is largely maladjusted individuals holding extreme perspectives and hysteria because they have never had to cope or address issues. Someone always made the problems go away for them. There was always something that did not make them have to show merit. All the moderate and center-left found more common ground with a Republican Party that moved to the center on social issues and focused around economic and global concerns. The cupboard is bare for them at the moment.
For quite some time, the narrative around the Democrats is the lack of a central leader of the party, the lack of an individual or individuals seen as the party's thought leaders. During those moments you mentioned about the Republicans, they at least had some prominent voices in the mix and at the forefront that resonated with a significant enough portion of the party. In the absence of leadership, there is not just chaos, but the opportunity for extremism to fill that void. No central core message to build off of that. The problem with the modern-day Democrat is not simply the embrace of radical ideals, but the fact that there is no clear vision and policy position that Americans can see and project themselves favorably in. The view of the world and perspectives are clearly void of reason for any well-adjusted rational person, and the strategy is simply focused on addressing the image of the issue, not ideas aligned with societal-aligned expectations, which is what one expects policymakers to do. They completely believe that identity is the answer. This is why everything is centered around opposing President Trump, Republicans, and anything considered mainstream. Notice they never really have a counterpoint. They just make uncorroborated attacks without substance. They cannot offer an alternative position and approach because their ideas have proven to fail. Rather, they are trying to focus on the picture people see, but are becoming susceptible to radical ideas that are even worse than their failures in power. As is said in some political media, that the supply of discrimination and oppression to justify identity politics is dwarfed by the demand for it by those needing it for their own personal power. So it just does not resonate with the public. Most people believe in their agency over the situation, and even ones who may acknowledge issues are not seeing the benefit of ceding control over their life to a government that cannot even provide unemployment benefits as expected. Why would a government that does not know you care more about you than you?
Creating the environment for a political party to expand its appeal to a broader population will not come with the absence of principles, values, and morals, but with being able to connect with more potential voter bases based on alignment with ideas. I think Republicans have the ability to expand their tent size in the current environment. The Republican Party has drastically altered its appeal to people who would normally be considered Democratic voters. First, they centered the party on ideas that are unifying rather than staunchly divisive issues. For issues that they were once entrenched on, they have focused more on letting the public decide. A put-it-to-the-voters approach, where it took away the need for their candidates to align on either side of the issue. A large appeal for President Donald Trump is because the agenda is focused on creating opportunities for Americans, making American citizens and workers the focus of the federal government, and ensuring that merit is the cause of economic outcomes is something rational people of all ideologies should be able to agree with. Even on controversial issues, Trump has taken the middle ground and reasonable position. While the chaotic appearance and ego-driven messaging can be concerning at times, the policy positions are largely what you want from our leader. We want our interests at the forefront of society. We do not want our tax dollars benefiting people who violate laws either domestically or abroad. We want a fair chance to compete for opportunity rather than having some pay for indiscretions of our past. We want the trade imbalances caused by bad agreements or protectionism addressed. And we do not want to see fraud, corruption, and waste continue to be a cause for the constant demand for more government revenues. A stark difference from the offering Democrats are providing. They have yet to be transparent with the whole Biden era. And the whole Spanberger debacle proves they have no intentions of being trustworthy in the future. They are embracing people that hate America not simply through sentiments, but active participation in radical groups. They continue to believe the American people need to accept what they are being told and continue to repackage radical and dangerous ideas to unexpecting Americans not born to see the reason why these policies and ideas are opposed. Two completely different offerings to the public. One believes in your ability to be all you can be and wants to give you every opportunity to achieve success regardless of background or circumstance. The other wants you to empower the government to make critical life decisions. Not a hard choice for rational, well-adjusted adults.
I think it is plain and simple that Democrats need to stop embracing and normalizing radical ideas and values. Their brand is too closely aligned to Sovietism rather than America. And it reeks of petulance. They scream to the top of their lungs how much they hate America. In turn, they hate Americans as well. But it will all change if they are in power. Failure is a choice. There will be so many pundits who continue to say it is not the Democrats' fault. The people did not hear their messages in the proper context. Society is too racist, sexist, and all the other ist. Or Trump was just too good of a candidate and leader. Democrats are always the victim. No longer the party of ideas, but always the victim and the child pouting in the corner. You hear it from Hillary Clinton, Jasmine Crockett, Kamala Harris, and now Graham Plattner. And a host of others. All flawed people who think everyone else is the problem. Somehow lack of accountability, self-awareness, and transparency is supposed to be desirable. The party is a lost cause in the modern era. Once people set aside their dislike of the political outcome, many will look at the overall record favorable and move closer to the Republican side. The once ideologically rigid party is now the party that is focused more on solving problems that get in the way of opportunity, entrepreneurship, and government efficiency. To Democrats, they believe that their messaging opposing freedom, opportunity, fiscal responsibility, and domestic and national security is something that is appealing to rational, well-adjusted voters. They are wrong. Plain and simple.